You think I don't feel guilty for that? You think I don't? I do, okay? And you're making it worse.
I think it is a case that justice demands a life sentence. I would ask that the victim and be allowed to leave. Thank you, John.
I'm appalled and disgusted by what I've done. I've hurt your family in a way I can't fix. You're my prayers, and I hope one day you'll be able to forgive me, and that God will bring me peace.
From lovers to lawbreakers, now they're staring down life in prison. Watch this killer couple's dramatic reactions to their sentences, shock, denial, and the crushing moment the truth sinks in. Their realization that there's no escape will leave you speechless.
It has developed and bloomed into a special soul. It is our deepest sadness to have this sweet boy's life extinguished and buried in an unmarked grave. As a family,
Let's dive into the first case, Larissa Rodriguez, a name now synonymous with a heartbreaking tragedy that deeply impacted Cleveland, Ohio. In December 2017, the normally quiet, working-class neighborhood of Detroit Shoreway was shaken by a shocking discovery that revealed a harrowing story of neglect, abuse, and the tragic death of an innocent child.
And you think I don't feel guilty for that? You think I don't? I do, okay? And you're making it worse.
Larissa, a mother of 5, lived in a dilapidated home on West 80th Street. Her 5-year-old son, Jordan, suddenly went missing. Initially, Larissa spun a web of deceit, insisting he was in Texas with an aunt. But as investigators dug deeper, a disturbing truth began to emerge, exposing a grim and horrifying reality.
You do have a right to remain silent.
That's exactly what Larissa Rodriguez did. Stay silent. For months, we never heard from Rodriguez or her boyfriend Christopher about what happened to her son Jordan until now.
I was sitting with Jordan. It was like Jordan gave me his last words.
Rodriguez admits to detectives that she and her boyfriend buried her son in their backyard.
It was Christopher's idea to...
The case took a chilling turn when police, following a tip from Larissa's brother, searched the backyard of the family's home. There, hidden beneath layers of dirt, they uncovered the small, lifeless body of Jordan. He had been dead for months, his disappearance deliberately hidden by his own mother.
First, I want to say that the serviceman who made this phone call, it's so important that he did that, and I don't want him to go unrecognized, because I can't imagine the trauma that he had hearing this in a foreign country, that his brother had done something like this, asking his brother to take accountability, and then because his brother doesn't want to.
As the investigation unfolded, a disturbing picture of extreme neglect emerged. Jordan, a child with special needs, had been forced to endure horrific living conditions. The home was filthy, overrun with cockroaches and rats. He had been deprived of proper care, his pain and suffering kept hidden from the outside world.
Ma, I just wanted to let you know that I still love you, but I want you to tell me the truth and what really happened.
19-year-old Angel Alvarez is Larissa Rodriguez's firstborn son. Flanked by his aunt and his father, he begged his mother to tell him what happened.
Tell me the truth. I'm your oldest son. You never lied to me. I don't know why you would lie. And I just wanted to tell you I love you, and I'm gonna get justice for Jordan. He's my little brother. You're my mother, but I have to do what I have to do.
A family.
The case was brought before the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court, with Judge Nancy Margaret Russo overseeing the proceedings. Prosecutor Anna Faraglia led the charge for justice on behalf of Jordan, presenting compelling evidence that exposed the full extent of Larissa's neglect and cruelty. In the courtroom, Larissa's demeanor shifted, from defiance to resignation, as the grim reality of her actions came to light. The prosecution revealed how Jordan had been starved, abused, and buried without a trace of dignity. Each revelation stunned those in attendance, leaving many questioning how such heartbreaking cruelty could go unnoticed for so long.
Thanks.
This is State of Ohio versus Larissa Rodriguez, case number 614697. She's before the court today with her attorneys. The state is also represented. The defendant has previously pleas of guilty to count 1, a felony of the 3rd degree, count 2, a felony of the 3rd degree, count 3, a felony of the 4th degree, and count 4, a felony of the 3rd degree. The court has received and reviewed the sentencing memorandums as well as the PSIs. I'm prepared to pass sentence. The state is present. Would you like them to go first, or do you want to go first?
I would defer to the state, yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just like the co-defendant in this case, we have
As the trial moved forward, it became evident that Larissa couldn't avoid the consequences of her actions. Confronted with damning evidence, she ultimately pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, felonious assault, child endangerment, and abuse of a human corpse. Judge Russo, clearly affected by the case, sentenced Larissa to 25 years in prison. Her partner, Christopher Rodriguez, was also charged for his involvement in Jordan's tragic death, adding yet another layer of sorrow to this devastating story. And with that, we close the chapter on this heartbreaking case.
I think this case, justice demands a life sentence. I would ask that the victim and be allowed to plead. Thank you, Your Honor.
Next up is the disturbing story of Jeremy and Christine Moody, a couple whose names became infamous in Union County, South Carolina. Their case is marked by hatred, brutality, and a warped sense of justice that culminated in the savage murders of Charles and Gretchen Parker.
A recent double homicide in Union County has sex offenders living in fear.
On a Sunday afternoon in July 2013, on a 4-lane highway outside the small town of Jonesville, North Carolina, in a small house on the side of the road, police found the bodies of Charles Parker, a well-known mechanic and a registered sex offender, and his wife Gretchen Parker. Both bodies had multiple shot and stab wounds.
The story begins in July 2013, when Jeremy and Christine Moody set their sights on the Parkers' home in rural Union County. Fueled by a twisted ideology, the couple specifically targeted Charles Parker, a registered sex offender, and his wife Gretchen. Pretending to be stranded motorists in need of help, Jeremy and Christine gained access to the Parkers' home, but once inside, their real motives quickly surfaced. In a frenzied and violent assault, they unleashed their rage, shooting and stabbing both Charles and Gretchen in a brutal attack.
Folster's son, Lauren Duckworth, and his stepdad, Stephen, are both registered sex offenders. They all live together, so the registry lists their address, even the make, model, color, and...
As word of the murders spread, law enforcement swiftly began the hunt for those responsible. It wasn't long before the investigation pointed directly to Jeremy and Christine Moody. Their extremist beliefs and ties to white supremacist groups soon surfaced, casting an even darker shadow over an already horrific crime.
A car pulled up at the residence of Charles and Gretchen Parker. The vehicle door swung open, revealing a robust, bald-headed man with dead.
The case was brought before the Union County Courthouse, with Judge Lee Alford overseeing the trial. Prosecutor Kevin Brackett led the effort to hold the Moodys accountable, methodically laying out evidence that exposed the full extent of their brutal crimes.
Deputies say these home surveillance images show the Moodys leading the Parkers into their Union County home, where they were stabbed and shot repeatedly.
In the courtroom, Jeremy and Christine Moody showed a chilling lack of remorse. Rather than expressing guilt, they appeared proud of what they had done, their expressions marked by defiance as they confronted the consequences of their actions. The gallery looked on in disbelief as the couple's twisted motivations were laid bare for all to see.
Die right on your porch, you know, blood everywhere. It was a terrible thing for Christmas.
Jim Ormrod was home at 11:30 on Christmas Eve listening to a sermon before bed when his Christmas was changed for good. His 32-year-old neighbor, Stephen Manuel, was bleeding. A 16-year-old boy was with him, begging for help.
They were both over here. I mean, he was laying on the ground, blood all over everything, and he was dead, but it was the young boy that asked me to call 911, and that's basically what I did.
Will likely never forget.
Confronted with undeniable evidence, Jeremy and Christine Moody chose to plead guilty. On May 6, 2014, they stood before Judge Alford and admitted to charges including murder, kidnapping, first-degree burglary, and possession of a weapon during a violent crime. Acknowledging the gravity of their actions, Judge Alford sentenced them both to life in prison. And with that, this chilling chapter comes to a close. Now on to case number 3, the story of Dia Millerberg from North Ogden, Utah. It's a tragic tale marked by addiction, reckless decisions, and the heartbreaking consequences that led to the death of 16-year-old Alexis Rasmussen.
Under false pretenses, obstruction of justice, and with abuse or desecration of the human body.
2.
Statements are dismissed.
And moving to case ending in.
The count that ends in 2614. Defendant then assisted her husband.
I was looking at the A's and saying that 23rd. Ms. Rodriguez is going to give you an order here to report to adult probation and parole within 72 hours.
The story began in September 2011, when 16-year-old Alexis Rasmussen was hired to babysit for Dia and her husband Eric Millerberg. What should have been a simple routine job quickly took a dark and dangerous turn. Both Dia and Eric were deeply entrenched in drug addiction, and before long they pulled Alexis into their chaotic lifestyle. One tragic night, everything spiraled out of control. Alexis showed up at the Millerberg home expecting to babysit, but instead was exposed to a dangerous cocktail of drugs, including methamphetamine and heroin. As the night unfolded, she tragically overdosed. Panic quickly set in as Dia and Eric grasped the severity of what had happened. In a moment of fear and reckless judgment, they made a choice that would haunt them for the rest of their lives.
I'm not going to make excuses for what I've done. I think it would only make things worse. I have no way to express the magnitude of grief that I feel for Alexis and family for what I've done. But I take responsibility. And thank you for just letting me say this.
Rather than calling for help, the couple chose to cover up what had happened. They transported Alexis's lifeless body to a secluded area in Morgan County, abandoning her remains in a wooded spot near a river. For weeks, her family searched desperately, clinging to hope, completely unaware of the heartbreaking reality that had already unfolded.
Wanted to have a good time. She was known to make friends easily as well, and she could get along with most people that she was introduced to. She was also kind of considered your scene.
As suspicions mounted and the investigation gained momentum, the web of lies began to fall apart. Overwhelmed by guilt and increasing pressure, Dea finally came forward. She confessed the harrowing details of that night, ultimately guiding authorities to the location of Alexis's remains. The case was brought before the 2nd District Court in Ogden, Utah, with Judge W. Brent West overseeing the proceedings. Prosecutor Christopher Shaw pursued justice for Alexis, laying out evidence that revealed a troubling story of negligence, drug abuse, and a calculated cover-up.
And flyers for her were everywhere. They had been posted all around town. But weeks passed, and they weren't any closer to finding Lexi.
The case was heard in the 2nd District Court in Ogden, Utah, with Judge W. Brent West presiding. Prosecutor Christopher Shaw worked to secure justice for Alexis, presenting compelling evidence that exposed a deeply disturbing pattern of negligence and an attempted cover-up.
And Eric's trial began in early 2014. His appearance had drastically changed by the time of his trial. He had shaved his beard, he had styled his hair, he was wearing a suit that covered up all of his tattoos.
In the courtroom, Dea Millerberg appeared weighed down by guilt and resignation. As the harrowing details of the case unfolded, the gallery sat in stunned silence, absorbing the tragic series of events that ended a young girl's life. Dea's testimony against her husband, part of a plea agreement, added yet another layer of complexity to an already heartbreaking case. On August 2014, Judge West handed down the sentence. Dea Millerberg was sentenced to up to 5 years in prison for her involvement in Alexis's death, and with that, the case was closed.
Don't eat the paper, but it's the bones for you.
Just like a kid, a baby. Hey, open the front door.
Buddy, sit.
Coming in at number 4 are Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo, a couple who on the surface seemed like an average pair from Canada, but behind closed doors, they were hiding a horrifying secret. Their story began in the late 1980s when they met and quickly formed a tight bond. However, their relationship soon spiraled into darkness as they began to fuel each other's disturbing and violent fantasies.
Homolka told the court that Bernardo said it was time to bring home another young girl to be kept as a sex slave. She said he decided that the afternoon of Thursday, April 16, 1992 would be a good time because he believed there would be a lot of young virgins in the streets. She said that Bernardo had a plan and he made her repeat it over and over. Homolka said that after Bernardo strangled French, he put her body in a fetal position. She said that then she and Bernardo went downstairs. He showered and she blow-dried her.
Bernardo was already known as the Scarborough Rapist, having assaulted numerous women in the Toronto area.
Canadian couple Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka.
When Paul met Carla, the two discovered a shared appetite for violence. Together they orchestrated and carried out the kidnapping, rape and murder of 3 young women, including Carla's own sister, Tammy Homolka.
While Teal was held in jail on the rape charges, Carla Homolka went into hiding.
3. Bernardo is seen here cheering the runner along the Marathon of Hope.
Tammy became their first victim, drugged and assaulted by the couple on Christmas Eve in 1990. The attack was so horrific, it resulted in her death, which they initially passed off as an accident. Tragically, this was only the beginning.
Over the next 36 hours, Paul Bernardo assaulted his victim repeatedly.
Over the following 2 years, Carla and Paul went on to abduct and torment 2 more young girls, Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. They recorded the assaults on video, exposing the horrifying extent of their brutality.
Shortly thereafter, it became very clear that something was terribly wrong.
That the crime was escalating in this small, quiet, perfect little town.
Leslie's fate had been sealed 2 weeks earlier.
Eventually, the couple's horrific crimes caught up with them. In 1993, Paul Bernardo was arrested, and the shocking truth about their actions was finally exposed. Carla Homolka made a deal with prosecutors, agreeing to testify against Bernardo in exchange for a reduced sentence, a decision that sparked widespread public outrage.
But claimed that she'd been a battered wife and an unwilling accomplice.
Bernardo was sentenced to life in prison, where he remains to this day. Carla served 12 years before being released in 2005, and has since tried to lead a low-profile life, though her dark past continues to follow her. And with that, we bring this case to a close. Now for the final case on our list. Matthews was in court facing misdemeanor charges stemming from a road rage incident. As the sentencing began, he pleaded with the judge, hoping to avoid jail time, but the judge was firm. Matthews was going to jail. In a last-ditch effort, he made a run for it right there in the courtroom, with his girlfriend racing after him. The couple fled in their car, kicking off a high-speed police chase that reached up to 90 miles per hour. The chase came to a halt when Matthews collided with an SUV carrying a couple and their baby. Fortunately, no one sustained serious injuries. Police quickly pulled Matthews and his girlfriend from the wreck and transported them to the hospital. Matthews was later charged with assault related to the crash and received a 425-day jail sentence. His girlfriend, however, was not charged for her involvement in the escape. Thanks for watching. If you were stunned by this killer couple's reaction to their life sentences, be sure to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping true crime stories.